Welcome to today's podcast. This is your Rubies of Grace host, Rosie Nyama. Rubies of Grace podcast promote the principles of love, respect, mutual agreement, unity, integrity, and trust within our diverse relationships. We're God's jewels beautifully crafted to radiate His image and light in this world. It is such a pleasure to be sharing this podcast on Relationships Matter with you. I do hope that you can come with me on this journey for us to better our relationships because relationships matter. As we conclude this podcast series on relationships matter, this final podcast is a question. Will you fix the missing jigsaw puzzle? It is really a mix of reality check and a call to action. I hope at the end of today's podcast, you develop your relationship action plan. Will you fix the missing jigsaw puzzle? The Relationship Matters podcast series started with considering connections and diverse levels of connections. We were encouraged to be intentional, to prioritize our relationships, as you easily appreciate or even treasure what you value. If you do not value something, that thing is as good as trash to you. What you value is what you protect, is what you make happen, is what you hold to high esteem. If you don't value it, you don't do much about it because it doesn't mean much to you. Is your relationship a priority? What value have you placed on your relationships? What is the center of your focus, your activity, or your attention? Is it your relationship? Have you relegated your relationship to the rear and considered it as unimportant? Character, which we defined in our podcast series as who you are, the real you, and not just who you behave as. Considering your character, what do you exude when you are pressured? Do you need to back up to reflect? Do you need to listen back to that podcast on my character will be my asset? Do you need to go back and listen to the podcast on what are you wearing? Because in those podcasts, we did explore what character is and that one's character can be modified or changed. You can work on your character, you can improve your character, and you can replace bad character with good character. You shouldn't be saying, that's just me, that's the way I am. You can change. Change begins when you're intentional. Change begins when you notice the need for that change. Are you bitter, traumatized, feeling neglected, pained? Is this defining your present self? Is this past experience interfering with your relationship? They say that hurting people hurt others. Is this a reflection of the current experience? Are you hurting others? Or are you being hurt by someone who is hurting? Are you ready to receive healing or help? I would advise you to listen to the podcast on letting go to build a better relationship. As you may have observed, if you have listened to previous podcasts within this Relationship Matter podcast series, there is the interconnectivity of the relationship core concepts and the role it plays in rebuilding or repairing relationship bridges, in elevating relationships, in working out healthy relationships and better relationships. Imagine your relationship to be a jigsaw puzzle spilled across the table. At first, the pieces will seem very random and have no resemblance to the picture on the jigsaw box. Some pieces might have bright edges and shadowed corners. Nothing makes sense looking at the scattered jigsaw puzzles or jigsaw pieces of that puzzle. You can try to force some pieces of the jigsaw together and you realize that the wrong shapes only bend and break with your effort, and love will not make them fitting. However, with patience, being intentional, having shared values, good communication, trust, slowly the borders take form. With time, piece by piece, the picture appears. You begin to notice this beautiful picture that becomes a rewarding experience because you built it together, hands side by side, over the chaos from the shattered pieces. Imagine also relationships like a jigsaw puzzle, and the jigsaw pieces are not neatly cut. Perhaps some pieces are missing, and possibly a few of the pieces belong to a completely different box you didn't even know was on the table. You realize that either due to your carelessness or carefree action, you have lost or misplaced some of the jigsaw pieces. I want you to stay here for a bit. Reflect on the missing pieces. What does it look like? What vacuum or space has been created from the missing pieces? Has the missing pieces created tension, a feeling of dissatisfaction or hopelessness? Do you or your friend, partner, or spouse feel bad about the missing pieces? Is it affecting you? Yes, if yes, in what ways is it affecting you or affecting your friend, your partner, or your spouse? Did you notice when and how the pieces were misplaced, displaced, or lost? A missing jigsaw puzzle piece can be a frustrating experience, but there are options for resolving the issue. Like we've noticed during all our podcast series, we identify a problem, but we consider solutions on how to fix a problem. You don't stay in that problem. You don't continue to let that missing jigsaw puzzles leave that vacuum or that space, because it's quite frustrating. Before we consider the options for resolving the missing jigsaw puzzle, we would consider strategies for fixing the puzzle without any missing pieces. So, this is a scenario where the jigsaw pieces have been scattered on the table, but they're all intact. None is missing. Experts that fix jigsaw will normally use some strategies to be able to completely fix the jigsaw puzzle. I don't know how good you are or how skilled you are with fixing jigsaw puzzles, but experts will either find the edges first. They say a good way to solve puzzles is to start with the border pieces. So considering your relationships as a jigsaw, the borders can represent your boundaries, your values, and know that without these boundaries and values, the relationship gets wobbly. Fix the borders. Start with fixing the borders, your boundaries and your values. Some other experts will adopt a trial and error approach. You can try different pieces, but remember, forcing the pieces will not make them fit. Rather, it will damage the pieces if they don't match, and the whole picture will get distorted. If you try it, it doesn't fit, take it out. Try another piece. That's another approach. Some other experts will see the bigger picture. So they say this is a good and strategic way of fixing the jigsaw puzzle. But you will need patience to step back and see how the smaller pieces connect. In relationships, this means looking beyond individual moments to the larger story you're building together. The larger, beautiful story, it needs patience. Another approach is to consider the missing pieces now. Did you know that there are jigsaw doctors? I didn't know that before. But my question for you is, would you choose to be the jigsaw doctor and attempt to make your own replacement piece? That is a case where you've misplaced or displaced or lost a jigsaw piece, creating space in the picture. Will you be the jigsaw doctor? Will you consider creating your replacement piece? If you try, you may be able to create a custom replacement of the missing jigsaw and complete the puzzle. Also, know that in relationships, no one relationship comes with all the pieces perfectly in place. You have to learn to accept some gaps or find ways to fill them together. Both of you can choose to be the jigsaw doctors in that relationship. The joy of the final picture, when all the jigsaw pieces have been correctly or meticulously positioned, when it does fit, it is a very satisfying experience. You feel proud of yourself, of the hard work, not because of the perfect picture resulting, but because you walk through the mess together with your friend, your partner, or your spouse. Will you fix the missing jigsaw? Will you reflect on your relationship? We've dealt with a lot of stuff over the last few weeks and months within this Relationships Matter podcast series. I believe there's a lot for you to have gleaned and discovered from this series because the relationships matter. Are you going to put a value on that relationship? What are you going to do regarding the missing piece? What will you settle for? Will you be indifferent? Or will you be intentional to make a change? You can always go back to previous series within this podcast series, previous podcast episodes, and listen over. Think about the strategies we've shared. Think about the solutions we've shared. Think about the options we've shared. Think about key concepts, biblical scriptures, pathways, experiences that you can improve on to make yours better even. Are you going to be intentional to fix the missing jigsaw puzzle? Are you going to be intentional to make a change in your own behavior so that under pressure, in good times, in bad times, you exude good behavior? Your character is who you are. What is missing in you? Is it the hurt? Is it the trauma? Is it the pain that's caused you to have a skewed perception of other people? Are you going to accept healing? Are you going to let go to build a better relationship? Will you hold on to your character, a good character, as an asset rather than a bad one? Are you going to try and swap bad character for good character? Consider what you're wearing. Are you wearing the wardrobe God chose for you? Are you wearing things that reflect who God wants you to be? The love, the kindness, the compassion, self-control, patience, humility. What are you wearing? Like I said, this is a summary of the Relationship Matters podcast series. And I believe that if you have walked with me on this journey, you will walk towards improving your relationship. You can do better. You can work it out. You can elevate your relationship. You can fix the missing jigsaw puzzle. You can be the doctor, jigsaw doctor. I do hope that today's podcast will ignite a desire to nurture your relationship and to consider areas where you need to make a change, adapt, or perhaps add more juice Add power, vigor, energy, interest, excitement. It's been a pleasure going on this journey with you. And I do hope that you do your best to work it out, to fix the missing jigsaw puzzle, because relationships matter.